New York Knicks still do not have a coach, but reportedly are interested in South Carolina's Dawn Staley. Dawn is already going to go down in history as one of the greatest basketball coaches ever, period, regardless of gender. Gino Auriemma, Pat Summitt, Dawn Staley, you do not have to coach men's basketball to be a great basketball coach. She has nothing to prove. That said, do we know whether she's interested in this type of thing at all, coaching in the NBA?
We don't know, but how could she not be? Right? Now, if you remember back when Kentucky was looking for a coach last summer and they ended up with Mark Pope, I said they should hire Dawn Staley because I thought she was one of the best coaches in the country, regardless of level or college versus pro. I just think she's that good of a basketball coach. Everywhere she's been successful, and she comes with instant cachet. Right. So if you are the Knicks and you're looking for a best available coach, how could she not be on that list in terms of just what she's already accomplished? Now, the thing that everyone is going to get caught up in is the fact that it would be history making if she gets that job. And for her, though, she has to look at that beyond the history that can be made because she understands what she's going to represent. And unfortunately, when any type of, let's call it minority, does something for the first time, they accomplish goes beyond them. And if they don't accomplish something, that goes beyond them as well. And if you're a minority in this country, whether it's black, whether it's a woman, and you're trying to make a way for yourself in sports, you understand that it's more than just about you. And for her, that's a lot to weigh. And also, she's very successful where she is. She's the highest paid coach at her division, all of those things. But for her to have this opportunity, speak for Dawn Staley, but it would be hard pressed for her to turn it down, especially if the money is what it should be to coach the Knicks, the NBA team in the largest market in the country. They have to come correct with salary. If they do that, I would find it very hard for her to turn that down.
She would be in such an unusual position, unprecedented position, but you touched on something that I think is important that she would need to understand as well. And I'm confident she would. She's a smart woman. But there are a lot of NBA coaches who get hired every offseason and fired very quickly, and we just chalk it up to the NBA. Like Frank Vogel can win a title and then get fired. Mike Budenholzer can win a title and then get fired, and we're just like, oh, well, they didn't have good rosters or there weren't enough people. We just chalk it up to, man, this is the way the NBA works. But if she were to get hired and it not go well, it would not ever be a story simply told as the NBA is hard. Most coaches get fired pretty quickly. It would be, see, we finally tried it. We tried to let a woman coach in the NBA, and you see how that went. It would mean so much more to so many people. Even if it wouldn't mean that at all, it would get translated that way, and that's something that she would have to carry with her, and that's a heavy thing to carry around.
And it's a ridiculous thing to carry around, quite honestly. But that is the reality. But again, at some point, we as a society have to get past these old judgments and tropes that get added to people as some indication of who they are and what their value is, right? John Thompson said this decades ago when it came to black coaches getting opportunities. He said, I just want the same opportunity to fail as white coaches get.
Right.
And that's all you're asking for. And Dawn Staley should have that same opportunity. Look at some of the coaches that are leading teams in the NBA right now. The average fan has no idea who they are or where they came from, right? Look at who just won the championship for the Thunder. No one knew that man's name prior to this year for the most part in terms of the average NBA fan. They didn't know Mark Daggett. They didn't know who he was. They sure as hell don't know where he came from and what his coaching legacy was. You know who Dawn Staley is. Right. You know what her basketball legacy is. You know she's a Hall of Famer, right? So how could she not get an opportunity? And if she does get an opportunity and it doesn't go well, all of a sudden that's a of how poorly all women would do in that situation. That's a farce, absolute farce. Now, if I'm Dawn Staley, maybe the number one thing I would be concerned about as it relates to me personally is what happened to the coach that just lost this job, right? So if I go there, she has to not just succeed, Gary, she has to win a championship, right? She can't just go there and have back-to-back 50-win seasons, make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. She has to go to New York and lead this team to something that is not accomplished since 1973, right? That's a lot of pressure to keep your job and to get another contract. So from her personally, I can see why she would turn it down because of the organization, but as an opportunity to be a history maker, again, how can she say no?
The other thing I've read or heard in recent days is this story materializes is, well, how will the players respond to her? And they don't really mean her. They just mean a woman. How will they respond to a woman coach? And to me, that is an insult to the men almost. It's to assume that they wouldn't respond or respect somebody who is an undeniable, brilliant basketball mind. I just think we live in a world in 2025 where women are running some of the biggest things in this world, and it seems to go fine. Like it reminds me a little bit of the conversations we used to always hear about. If you ever have an openly gay man in a football locker room or a basketball locker room, how is that going to go? And then people would talk about it for 7 hours. And then we finally got it. And you know what we found out? It didn't matter at all. It just didn't matter. The dynamics didn't change. And I suspect this would be something similar, that the whole male-female dynamic that people conjure up in their head wouldn't be that big of a deal in reality. What do you make of that?
It's amazing how many people hold on to ignorance.
Yes.
And I don't know why. And it's willful ignorance, right? Dawn Staley has more basketball cachet than probably half the coaches in the NBA.
Right.
Based on what she's accomplished. And why would you not listen to someone who's won a gold medal, who's won national championships? Then you are just an idiot.
Right.
You're not listening to her. And again, I'm comparing some of these current NBA coaches. If Mark Daigneault and Dawn Staley walk into a gym, the country, it's going to get recognized more.
Yeah.
No, it's not just because she's Dawn Staley, head coach of South Carolina, but they know what she's accomplished as a coach in basketball. She's going to have more cachet with these people than Mark Daigneault would. And that's no disrespect to Mark. That's just a reality. So with that being said, how would any basketball player, whether it's Jalen Brunson or Mikal Bridges or Karl Anthony Towns, not respect what Dawn Staley would have to say about how they play and what she's seen, right? That just, it wouldn't make any sense. And anyone who would say, well, they're not listening to her because she's a woman, then I think there's two ignorant people. The person who said that and the person, to your point, who would be that male, not listening to a woman simply because she's a woman. That too would be ignorant.